thanks for being here. Really looking forward to this event. And it's our last event of the year, so thanks for being here. Thanks for being with us this whole year. Yeah. Where's everybody logging in from? You can put in the chat. Daytona Beach. All right, look everybody, 1 more minute. All right, so let's get started. Thanks everyone, welcome, thanks for being here. To a journey into scaling design featuring Claudio Baptista, Director of User Experience at GoPro. And yeah, thanks for being here. This event is hosted by SDXD, San Diego Experience Design Professionals Network. We're a community of designers that and user experience professionals. We meet monthly to share ideas, experiences, make connections. So yeah, thanks for being here. And these events cannot be possible with our amazing board. So thanks you guys for all the support and making these events a reality this year. And if you're interested to continue the conversation, you can join our Slack. We'll post the link in the chat. There we have job postings, we post about future events, and we continue any conversations that maybe were cut too short during our events. All right, and we have a couple of announcements, or well, one announcement for people in San Diego. So we're having our UX holiday party in conjunction with UX Speakeasy. That's happening on Wednesday, December 1st at Society Brewing and Convoy. So if you're in San Diego and you want to reconnect, we're kind of all getting back into the real world. So it would be really nice to see you, and we'll be there on Wednesday 1st. We'll also post events in the chat, and you can find the event on our meetup page, and you can find all the details, time, location, all that stuff. And I would also like to hand it over to our awesome sponsor, MetaLab.
Cool. Thanks, Antonio. Hi, everyone. My name is Brent. I work at MetaLab. I'm the Director of Marketing. I won't take up too much of your time. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who we are. Next slide, please. If you have not heard of MetaLab, you should know that we're a product design agency. We help other companies ship products. We've got 150 people scattered around the globe in 15 different countries, and 3 folks in San Diego. Yeah, we can keep going. We take an iterative approach to product. That's a skateboard, a bike, and a car. We work with a lot of startup founders on products that become famous. You can go to the next slide. So we've designed an early version of Slack. We helped create the brain training interface for Neuralink. Early version of Coinbase and Notarize. All kinds of good stuff is going on over here at MetaLab. You can go to the next slide and learn more about the work that we're doing with NFTs and the creator economy and media and publications. If you follow us on Instagram, we tend to share a lot of great work there. So that's the call to action. Go follow us on MetaLab. I took a note of how many followers we had before this call. I hope to see it increment a little bit. Thanks very much. Happy to be here with you guys tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Brent. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on that number too. Let's hope it goes up. And yeah. Okay. Yeah. And MetaLab has been an awesome sponsor this whole year. So really thanks for supporting this year. It couldn't have been possible without your support. So thank you again. And we can now get to the agenda. So after this, we'll have obviously our presentation, our main event, and we'll have a Q&A session after that. So feel free to add your questions in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them. And after that, if you're still interested and want to continue the conversation, we have an optional post-event networking session. So we just maybe do breakout rooms or a single room, depending on how many people. And it's always awesome to connect with you guys. So again, thanks for being here. And okay, without further ado, let me introduce today's speaker, Claudio Baptista. He is a creative leader with over 2 decades of experience in the in user experience, product design, visual design, and creative strategy. Claudio's career has spanned large corporations, global agencies, startups, and his own design shop. Claudio is a former UX design leader at Disney and currently is heading GoPro's direct-to-consumer experience design team. So without further ado, thanks, Claudio, for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Antonio. Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? All good?
Yes.
All right. So thank you so much for the SDXD team, Chantel, Howie, Antonio, Melissa, and the entire team that for having me here. It's an honor to share a little bit of my story with you guys. So let me just share my screen and we can kind of jump right into. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right one. All right. Can you guys see my screen well? So let me just play this and move this little thing out of my way. Let me see, just give me a quick second because my Zoom, let me just move this to the other window and we will start playing. All right, just give me a thumbs up if you can see my slides. Antonio, I'm looking at you. If you just did this, we are good to go. Thank you, everyone. All right, so yeah, so it's great to be here, guys. We're going to be talking today. It's a little bit about more like a practical journey, especially from my time at Disney. Let me just move this out of the way real quick, because yeah, or if you can just kill the little admit thing that keeps popping up, that would be great. So a little bit about myself. I think Antonio, yeah, the thing keeps popping up here. So let me just try to just move this out of the way. It just keeps going on and off. Sorry about that. Let's go back to it. So yeah, as Antonio said, a little bit about myself. I'm from Brazil originally. I started my design career back in Brazil, worked for Yellow Pages quite some time, from an intern all the way to manager, and then end up moving to the US, where I kind of continue my journey in design. I've been all over the place, to be honest. I work in big agencies. I opened my own design shop, large corporations. I was at Disney for 7 years, where I led the design team at the Walt Disney Studios. And recently, as last year, I'm about 1 year into my GoPro journey as director of the UX there for the D2C team. So I want to start with what's not the goal for today. Again, this is a journey, and especially about implementing one of the first design systems to scale design at the Walt Disney Studios and across Disney altogether. So I will be sharing with you guys today a little bit of the journey, a little bit of the insights and learnings that I gather along the way, but not for today. We're not going to be doing a design system definition. I'm not sure how you guys are versed with design system. I think it's a very common trend nowadays in any type of company at any size to solve kind of the same problems that we're looking at. But we're not going to go to a Brad Frost atomic design definition. And unfortunately, I won't be able to demo any of the artifacts and actually the design system that we end up creating. As you guys know, I'm not at Disney anymore. So what we're going to be doing today, again, is just sharing the learnings and insights from implementing organization-wide design system at Disney Studios. So again, we didn't have that concept back then. Again, this journey started in 2014 and carried on. It's a product that's still live, and it's impacting a multitude of products at Disney. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. Some quick tips and advices. Just to level set, kind of give you a little bit of background info and the context. I was part of the technology team at the Walt Disney Studios, which is about 400 technologists, and we were supporting at the time 50 plus internal and consumer applications. And these facets below here are kind of the main verticals at the time: production, content, marketing, distribution, and consumer experience. So the UX team was kind of like a service organization that would have to kind of pretty much support across the board all the projects and products that are coming out of these verticals at Disney. I think that the beginning of the challenge, like, really started the idea. We kind of spotted a problem. Primarily, that's how the whole thing started. We knew that we were trying to push the boundaries on the user experience side. There was the expectation of our senior leadership at Disney that our internal tools and consumer tools would level up from an experience perspective. And unfortunately, at that time, our organization, especially the technology team, was heavily leaning towards the engineering side. So with that in mind, it was really difficult. The tech stack was really kind of dictating the experience that we could actually deliver as a team. So, and because we were a decentralized organization, still functioning as service, but decentralizing projects, we were seeing some of these common problems. It doesn't matter if you're at Disney, which is a large corporation, or it doesn't matter if you're at Google, or it doesn't matter if you're in a smaller shop or in a smaller company. You're gonna deal with fragmented user experience, inconsistencies in approach, difficult resource planning, employee mobility, a lot of time spending redesigns, a lot increasing development costs, because again, a lot of the time we had to go back to code and try to fix things. And especially we had a kind of blend between build and buy. A lot has to do with license costs and fees. So really we're seeing this throughout the entire organization. And the key goal here, the question that we had, which gets to our hypothesis, was what if we created our own platform? And by providing all these guidelines, assets, and involving all types of resources, we will then save the time, reduce the development costs, improve the user satisfaction for internal users, our employees, as well as external users as well. So again, we are trying to, but really what we're trying to do, it's like, look, we're a small team inside a big organization. How can we make the most impact possible? How can we scale design across a multitude of teams, right? So we're really trying to level up the entire portfolio, and we really needed to scale design to a point. And again, through resources alone, we can't do that. We cannot just hire an army of designers and deploy to every single team. So the design system was one way to do it. So this is kind of started our journeys, and I'll guide you through kind of what the steps that took us to implement this and some of the things that we learned. So really, I think everyone is here, or it's a UXer, or it's a designer, or it's interested in UX, or it's on the product side or engineer side. I don't know where all you guys are coming from, but I think we all kind of understand the vital role of research, but especially from a design system, that's kind of crucial. We deal with research a lot when we're designing consumer products, and we try to be as rigorous as possible to gather as much data as possible to inform the design decisions that we're going to be taking and the solutions that we're going to be creating. However, when we study a design system, I felt that was absolutely necessary to really embed my team into the sprints with the developers. We really wanted to do a contextual type of inquiry outside of user interviews and surveys and all the other methodology from a research perspective. But really, we need to spend time in certain projects, sitting with the teams to really understand why we couldn't ship or build the experience that we wanted, what kind of approaches that the teams were taking, and every team was a little bit different. So a key thing for us to make a case to push the design system that needed to be funded, it was really leveraging a ton of data and really getting deep into research. That helped us in so many ways, and I cannot stress how important it is, even if you're doing a design system internally, to serve your own technology team. One of the things that came out of the research is really that help us was understanding the spectrum, especially in a bigger company. I think you guys gonna, if you're trying to do an approach like this in a larger corporation, you're gonna get a spectrum of different enthusiastic people about this effort. So you're gonna get from champions, people that truly believe the cause, that they buy in right away, that they see all the benefits, the advantages, and you get people on the other side of the spectrum that's very skeptic about the effort. What we heard a lot at the time was like, why UX is trying to dictate the framework that developers should be using, or why UX is trying to standardize the way we code. And really, you guys are gonna see that this effort to really success with a design system, it is a joint venture. It is a true partnership between developers, designers, product, and leadership. So we really need to be able to get everybody buy-in and get everyone understanding what we're trying to do here. Otherwise, the effort will probably not succeed. We need completely full understanding buy-in. But again, you're gonna be able to spot all kinds of personalities and all kinds of appetite for an effort like this. In our case, was really important to get the champions on our side so we could federate the word to mouth and bring that up to leadership. I'll tell you more a little bit about that. With that, we started looking like who should be involved in this effort. Early on, I think that's really key to spend answering these 3 points here. And again, you cannot do this without the research. Who are the dedicated core members that we're going to be building the system? Who are the influencers and product champions across the entire organization that will help you push that up? And who are the leaders across the org that will help you fund and invest on the design system? Again, design systems are very unique because they are trying to solve a technology problem. It's a product that serves products. And it cannot be treated as a project. It needs to be funded as a living product with a roadmap, a dedicated team, and it needs to evolve. So really, it needs investment. That's what that means. It needs someone to be behind that. Huge teams like Google and Material Design, got tons of designers just working. A lot of design companies now, they are creating titles for design systems. Managers and core design system practitioners. So really, we want to get that. But keep in mind that what I'm talking about here, it's like really early stages to trying to plan this idea and plan this seed. This was something that was good for the company. Another key aspect facet that we should define right away is which products will affect. And that can be from a single team, a single project, a single application, a mobile app, or a website. And that can grow into a portfolio of products that can go enterprise-wide, that can go even to an open source toolkit that's going to be out there. So be very specific, I would say, about what is the impact, which products are going to be impacted, and which products are kind of the flagship products that you want to get that win to start with. So I think it's really cool to identify. And again, you can start from somewhere and grow, but for us was really start with the studio enterprise applications and then move our way up to the other segments of Disney, and move our way up to the other products at Disney. Lastly, we really need to define what's the scope of this product, right? Like, what should we include? What level of system that we want to build? Are we talking just the visual design language and style guides? Are we talking UI and UX patterns and documentation on that, on how to use a top navigation versus a side nav, for example? Are we talking about the component library with demos and docs, design assets, page templates, and we can grow from there. Editorial content. What is the scope? What exactly can we produce as a team, and what is meaningful for the company and the business? So I think the three key slides is the people, the products, and parts. Those are key to define out of the bat, because again, that will influence what your plan of attack is and the roadmap ahead of you. But really, I think the whole research and kind of defining the product vision initially gave us, there was not enough. We really need, and I love this sentence here, and I don't know if I got this somewhere or if this is mine, but anyway, this is something that I kind of preach, which really system enthusiasts, and doesn't need to be the system leaders or the core people working on the system. They really need to become entrepreneurs. You really need to pitch and sell the idea, especially if you want to introduce a design system in a new organization that, again, haven't seen the value of an effort like this yet. So you really need to work on your business case, work on your data, and be able to prove there is an ROI to an effort like this. One of the things that really help us, I think, with all that kind of the good news for us is we were able to get to our senior leadership at Disney, do the presentation and do the pitch, and they decided to invest on a POC for us. I can share the amount that was invested, but that gave us a core team and at least 1 year of runway to launch the system. One of the things that was really crucial when I started to identify what are the disciplines that will make the core team, it was really getting everyone together in a specific, what we call the war room. And that was extremely beneficial to isolate the team from all the noise around the company, but also really because we had a very compressed timeline to get to a product that it would be used by multiple products. We really need to get to be very focused. So here's kind of, we set up this war room. There was a working station as well as a research room next to it. And we really worked through defining the problems, working on taxonomy, working on IA, and all of that. So that was super cool for us to have dedicated rooms to be immersed into this effort. So I lived, breathed, and I was there for a lot of time of my life those years. Another key point that was very interesting for us to dig in was the importance of taxonomy and labeling and grouping and information architecture altogether when you define a system, especially when the system is trying to touch multiple teams and multiple disciplines. So for us, was really key to especially understand the differentiation between how developers call things versus how designers call things, and how important for them to find the right information that they needed at the right time. So the taxonomy here, how we organize, how we call patterns, how we call components, was really, really tricky, because again, a style guide for a designer means a different thing when you're talking to a developer or engineer. So we really needed to spend a lot of time testing our taxonomy and making sure that people could get to the right places here, which lead us to take to the lab. I know you guys, just as research, you guys all know evaluative research, usability testing, usability studies were kind of key. So we were able to run so many sessions in the lab at Disney Research that really we create tons of prototypes, tons of schemas on the IA. We brought the teams in and we were just asking them to complete tasks and look, and we found out a lot of learnings from this. One specific one that I can mention is one of our approaches was making one hosting environment, the website that hosts all the resources and guidelines into a single entry point for designers and developers. One of our assumptions was we will breed better developers if they learn why the designers are choosing the pattern and vice versa. That didn't work well. Really, we needed to gate the whole experience for design and for developers. So we had an entry point for designers, entry point for developers, and then deep link them to connect internally. But that was a really good learning because we are trying to make a single way for designers and developers look at the same type of data, and that really didn't resonate well. So I think that was really key, and we just found out that during the lab tests. I think that producing the design system is it's a really good journey, and depending on your scope, it's a really interesting. But really, I think the bulk of the design system success will sit on the governance of a design system. Again, once you have all the products, all the resources, all the guidelines, the website that's going to host all that, how are we going to keep up with the adoption? And how we're going to teach teams to use the system in a way. And this slide here is kind of key. So this acronym here, AEAO, it's really came about to, like our first pass is try to adopt the system. This was for designers and developers as well. You try to adopt the system, you can extend to solve any system problems if you want it. You can act independently without conflicting the system if your application or your product has such a specific need, and you can override because of conflict. So two people designing the same pattern, we would then audit and get to a single one. Fostering collective ownership, I think for us was trying to involve as many designers in many areas of the company as possible, and getting this federated ownership, that's what we call it, which is like now multiple people from different product areas, different platform experts, subject matters, they could come and contribute and be part of the system. So instead of having just the core team that was making all the decisions and centralizing that way. And to end up is really the design system governance model is as important or more important than the system itself. So be sure if you guys are in the journey of a design system, or if you're planning to do it, or if you make sure that you have a very solid governance model, and that includes the decision-making, contributions, adoption, support, training. So you really need a lot of the investment that goes into a system. Depending on your company, in this case, we're talking about 400 people trying to adopt this. It was really, we had to spend a lot of time in governance. If you're in a smaller company, it's easier to get across multiple products, but definitely in a large corporation it becomes more difficult. In summary, just to wrap up here real quick, this is time, I think is one of the major ones. It's really time consuming to create. It takes a lot of effort. So really aggressive timelines might detract from the effort. You cannot treat systems as an auxiliary project that sits on the side. I'll do on my free time. I love the initiative. I think it's great when team members try to do that. But again, it will die. It needs to be a product that's funded by time or by money, right? So governance, we talk about it, but it's so important to kind of structure how we're going to keep the system alive after the launch, and how we're going to be innovating and growing the system and make sure teams are adopting and contributing. Support, same realm, big area. Context of use goes back to research. Just understand and provide the context on how to use the pattern. So training is a big piece. And really understand your audience. As we all know, as UXers, we're aiming to design products that are actually solving needs. And we cannot get to that until you understand what those are and understand who you're serving. Just quick, again, I'm not going to demo the system, but I will tell you a little bit of the results. This was iteration 1 of a system that we call HAX. That was the code name. this was launched, and you can see here the design approach, which was that kind of hybrid design here, developed there. And you can see how this guidelines, so 20 teams, we had a alpha release, we had a beta program to adopt some core products that tried the system first. We had 20 plus teams across the entire Disney, went beyond the studios. We had 8 products that went to production with the system's contribution the first year, and we're able to market to get some of the KPIs that we're looking to address from a leadership and a business perspective. We're able to prove the point that this was an effort that was supposed to be recurring as an investment for the company. And that became every year we had a specific side of investment for this effort. So it was super successful. We are, since I left Disney, product was in the 3rd iteration and was fully adopted with more teams across Disney doing their own versions of design systems. So that's kind of in a nutshell the journey. Sorry if I went too fast. I know we have 20 minutes and plus. I'm probably over a little bit, but I just wanna say thank you to everyone, and please hit me up if you guys are in this journey or have any specific question. Love to share more if you want to. We'll stop sharing screens more.
Thank you so much for this great presentation, Claudia. It just eye-opening to see how you build a design system in such a big corporate from the scratch. And all the lessons and insights you share with us are really useful. And we already got quite a lot of questions on Meetup page and also from our audience. Just to let everyone know, if you have any question for the presentation or for Claudia, feel free to just type a question in the chat. We will let Claudia answer those questions in our Q&A. So without further ado, I'm gonna start asking you some questions and give our audience some time to type the questions. So the first question is from our Meetup page. Jamie was asking, how would you recommend incorporating accessibility into the design library beyond reviewing individual prototypes?
Yes, that's a great question. I think inclusive design and accessibility is a part of inclusive design. It was a key consideration, especially it depends on your standards that we're trying to, but let's assume you're a double A standard. I think it needs to be core to the foundational piece of a system, meaning it's so the way we cut the system was we had a foundational, which was our style guide, some foundational editorial content, and accessibility was there. But it was a huge effort from our side, from a design side, because I was with my team, we had a extremely care to design products that were accessible, especially at Disney. We have very high standards. And from the engineer side, would be a little bit more difficult to implement all the accessibility. So another way that we looked at later was to partner with a third party just to stay focused on accessibility as a component of the system. But it's crucial to have as core part of the system. It can be built by an internal team if you have the capability, or if not, I would say if you have investment in your company and if this is treated as a product, I would say bring some experts to the table and let them help. We had a team at the enterprise side of Disney that really help us with accessibility. So they would do audits consistently on the system. Every new iteration of the system and then every new iteration of patterns, of features, or components, we would run through them and they would audit for us and send it back. And we would ingest those learnings for the next version, and we would be better in accessibility. But it's one of the things that you really need to put time and effort, I guess. It cannot be just an afterthought.
That's a good point, because from a design perspective, accessibility are not just about the contrast, the color. Yeah. Beyond what we say, like audio, alternative text, all that kind of things. So if you have the experts either in-house or like outside of the company, will be like tremendous to make sure the accessibility was built into the design system. Yeah, thanks for the answer. The next question is from our audience, Dominic. Dominic was asking, when you were pitching a design system to the leadership, did you also pitch a roadmap of the design system? If so, did you have a specific timeline, time frame you asked, specific skill set you needed, or just suggested makeup of the core team? I think basically Dominic was asking like, how exactly did you pitch your design system to the leadership?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Dominican. That's it, and that will vary company by company. I'll tell a little bit of. I cannot tell you all the details that we did because again, it was a process to get to final sign off. But it's we were able to build few different models, a conservative model and a more optimistic, I would say, more all-encompassing model. So we had different team sizes cut by model in different ways. So we really work on a NPL and ROI, which it was really trying to get some numbers. And we look at a lot of industry data at the time as well, in how much, so there was a combination of industry data, industry research, our internal research to get to time to market and cost savings. That's where the two main KPIs were pitched to leadership. So how fast we can ship a product if we have the things in place, and how much money we are reducing costs. We all agree from a leadership perspective, every single point that I showed you guys on that slide about those challenges that the company was facing, everyone was agreeing that yes, we have fragmentation, we have different user experience by product, we have different very hardcore ways to get employee mobility across multiple projects because different tech stack and skill set. So we hit every single one of those pain points, but primarily a lot had to do with financials. A lot had to do with, okay, we're gonna create an NPL chart, we're gonna baseline some projects, and we will prove with a system how we could potentially reduce costs and get speed to market. So it was a combination, I would say, from a qualitative perspective in satisfaction and as well as a quantitative, but it was a process of pitching. It was not one meeting, it was several meetings. And we really had to build several decks to kind of go point by point, but at a time we were able to secure the POC funding, which gave us the starting point to start to build the case. I hope that helps. It was a long process, but I would say if you're looking I would say look for different models that might work for your company. Look for conservative, which is more like, okay, here's how much we can affect. Here's the core minimal team that we need to do this. And more like, hey, this is the ideal scenario and the ideal case. Here's the investment, what we're expecting, and you have to get to an ROI that's worth investing. Again, design systems, one thing that's really good learnings, it's a long-term game. You're gonna gain long-term. Initially, it is investment. So you need to be able to make a leadership see that's a long-term plan that you're gonna be gaining traction on this year 2, year 3, year 4. You're gonna be speeding up as well as affecting your customer experience in a good way. I hope that helps.
Yeah, you had to kind of tweak your presentation based on who you are talking to, and what you're doing basically is like build a design studio within the big corporation to do the design system, which is awesome. I hope that answers the questions.
Sorry, Chantal, one more on that. Just learn your leadership well. See what ticks them. When we presented to the finance team, all about the numbers. When we presented to the VP of engineer, all about time savings and reduction in development costs. When we presented the VP of product and consumer experience, all about experience. So get to know your audience, prepare the materials to Chantal's point, and make sure that you're being effective on your presentation.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like after you pitch to the leadership and start doing the project, I remember you showing like you kind of have a war room set up to do the whole design system. And then Mikhail was curious to know, like, how did you make a war room remotely? I don't know if you have done this at GoPro, but I'm also curious, like, how can we do a war room when we're like all?
I think you can. I think it's again, I think that the power of the war room for us was to be immersed into the project itself. Again, we were gathering. We had just the composition of the core team was a few visual designers, two UXers. I was leading the effort, but we had a project manager, a product owner. We had a QA person, software like developers, front end, system engineers. So it was a complete kind of tech, like it was a cross-functional team, but we were not sitting on a functional silos. So I think the ability to get everyone together and be immersed and really bring every point of view to the table early on was crucial. I think that can be done virtually as well. It becomes a little bit more difficult to do because we're not in physical contact and we don't have the walls to see the artifacts. But I think you can create virtual rooms online. There's tools for that. I don't know if you guys use Miro or any one of these whiteboarding tools. It becomes a little bit more difficult, I would say, for sure. But I think the power of the war room is the immersion and be really isolated from the noise and concentrate in that. And everyone is contributor as in the ideation of the system. So my developers are not just doing the executional coding of the system, they are influencing strategy and they are part of the decision making. So I think the war room just help us to build that kind of environment.
Yeah, that's a good call. And I remember after you kind of build the room, the war room, and you start moving to the next phase where you were doing some like usability testing to see how the design system were performing, and which leads us to the next question from Arnold. How do you track, monitor, and adopt design decisions or changes over time inspired by user testing or feedback? Do you find yourself reusing designs that were otherwise implemented initially?
Yes, we used to have a process that, again, once you do, especially in a company like Disney, there's a team that we partner with, which is the Disney research team, and they really document and they report all the findings. And again, what's really amazing about the way we did the testing is we spend a few days in the lab and we're doing debrief ongoing. And my project, the project manager of the project at the time, he was primarily logging all the decisions and all the strategic decisions. We kept everything. A lot we tested was honestly on the taxonomy side and how developers, designers, product gets to information. But we evolved quite a bunch of the patterns that we created. And one of the, I would say not drawbacks about a design system, but I would say it's easy to get complacent and default to the patterns that exist on the system. And again, they exist for a reason. We want to be able to speed design and development. But one of the things that crucial about the system, and I think it's important to mention here, it's the ability to innovate and create and question the decisions that you made before and make sure that we're not just stuck in the same patterns for years to come. So we had a process that every other, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks, we used to get few patterns and we just try to break it or try to innovate on and try to advance that pattern. And I think that was a process that was well accepted by the designers, more even than the developers, because the designers, you know us, it's a paradox of a system. We as designers, we like the idea of a system, but when you have a chance to design, we want to break it because we want to design our own flavor and we want to design something new, or we want to design something that's cooler so we end up with 5 different ways to do tabs, for example, or navigation systems. There were 15 ways to do a side nav. And we're like, So I never wanted to stop that drive at that kind of spark of trying to innovate on a system. But we needed to create a process at the same time because we want to create some kind of a consistency across, especially if teams are moving between multiple products, that they don't need to learn a navigation system multiple times. So that's one of the goals. So it's a thin balance, but I think you really be careful with the innovation side. You don't want to stifle innovation. You want to find a way to promote that. So yeah, I would say revisit your patterns, make that into a process, log, and keep going, keep iterating.
Yeah, awesome. That's so true. Like for designers, we always just think outside the box, always want to break the patterns. I have done that all the time, but you're right. Like we need to, at some point, you have to stop iteration and just create that consistency across the board. And we're running out of time, so let's just have the last question from Ruby. So after you have done and designed the system, like how the existing product teams adopt the design system? How did they overcome the challenges?
So there was this is a great question. Because again, we had products in all kind of life cycles. We had products that when they heard about the system and they're like, okay, what can we do to adopt? Should we just try to do the styling to match the new design language that you guys are implementing? Do we want to go back and refactor components and try to kind of move to the framework? And we end up doing Angular and React in an agnostic CSS if you are in Vue.js or anything like that. So chasing frameworks was complicated, but it's we were trying to find a way. So we work with project by project, and we are trying, and that's why the governance is super important, because we wouldn't let anyone, the system was gated to a point until we actually open to everyone to use. But they needed to come to kind of almost like a boot camp, that we would sit with the project, really talk about the life cycle, where they were, and we would recommend ways to adopt. So we was almost like a tailor-made, it wouldn't be scalable, but in the beginning especially, we tailor-made the approach, and we have the developers from the system side really working together with the developers and designers on the product side to be able to adopt in a different way. So a new product they could adopt from the get-go. They would adopt the design system from the design side, as well as the development or the components, patterns, templates. But products they were in life, transitioning, just adding new features. Then we had to strategize what's the best way, because sometimes it didn't make sense to a product was their legacy product, just trying to launch a new feature and really completely change their patterns, their architecture, structure, and the design language altogether. So it was a case by case.
Thank you so much for sharing your answers. And we couldn't go through all of the questions in this short time, but if you are interested to like brainstorm or discuss with other team members, you feel free to stay on in our network section. And without further ado, I'm gonna hand over to our president, Antonio.
All right, thanks, Chantel, and thanks that was an awesome moderating, and those were great questions from everybody, and that was very interesting. So and of course, thanks, Claudio. That was a really interesting talk. I feel like you touched on a lot of stuff that usually doesn't get talked about in design systems, which is just everything that goes around it, around the artifact itself, and navigating. I feel that's like 50% or more maybe of what a design system actually is. So and I definitely connect with the designers wanting to break things, because I started a design system at some point. I just had to get somebody else to make it consistent for me. I was like, I have too much, I'm too close to this.
It's a paradox, my friend. We always want to do better. So it's a good thing, I would say. It's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So really, thanks again. That was an amazing talk, and thanks to MetaLab again for sponsoring. And thanks everyone for coming and for being with us in this past year. So hopefully for anyone in San Diego, we'll see you at the holiday party December Wednesday 1st. Sorry, Wednesday, December 1st. And if you want to stay, we'll have a post networking session, no pressure, but I'll stop the recording. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Claudio.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.